It's not necessarily designed or intended to detect fraud, but certainly if we were made aware of anything during the audit, we bring that to your attention. It starts out with having our opinion, so we issued a modified opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give. There's no modifications to it. Everything is presented fairly in accordance with GAAP. I'd like to remind you guys that management's responsibility for the financial statements is outlined in that independent audit report there. And management is responsible for the preparation and the fair presentation of the financial statements, which includes the design, the implementation, and the maintenance of your internal controls. And you're also responsible for fraud detection, deterrence, and prevention. And the auditor's responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from a material misstatement. And like I said, we issued a unmodified opinion. There's no modifications to it. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give. So that's what you as the board like to see. From there, we'll go to page 10 of the financial statements. This is the statement of net position. It's kind of a snapshot of your financial condition as a full business September 30th. Kind of a long-term full focus. So it's going to have some things on there like long-term debt, your pension liability with MERS, capital assets, things like that you won't necessarily see in your day-to-day reporting in your trial balance. So a couple takeaways from here. I always like to point out the current ratio. So the current assets versus your current liabilities, how easily you're able to pay your debts when they come due. So looking at about 5.2 million of current assets compared to about 1.6 million of current liabilities. So easily able to pay your debts when they come due. You're liquid. As a benchmark, anything over 1 would be good there. You're at about 3.2 times more assets than liabilities. So fairly healthy. Next thing I want to point out here, it's not circled out on your guys' copy, but a couple items here I want to point out. Looking at that deferred outflows and resources, probably about halfway down the page is the $2 million number. Also looking at the net pension liability, probably about 3/4 of the way down the page, the $3,142,763. So those net together to be a net liability of just over $1 million, and that represents your unfunded MERS pension liability as of December 31st, 2022. And then it also includes deferred outflows like your contributions made between January 1st and September, deferred recognition of any investment earnings or losses, things like that. So comparing that to the same number from last year was a net liability of about 1.4 million. So your overall improved is about $500,000 as a result of the current year. In comparison, I believe the deferred outflows increased quite a bit this year, and your net pension liability also increased quite a bit. But when you net those two together, it's a relatively small adjustment. Then bottom line here is unrestricted net position, 2,419,185. Next page, page 11, is the statement of activities. This is the results of operations for the fiscal year. Again, looking at it on a full accrual, long-term focus, I guess. It would include things like depreciation on your assets, things like that. So it's going to start on the left-hand side of the page with your expenses by program. And then as you go to the right, it's going to show you the program revenues, any charges for services, any kind of grants that were specific to those programs. The right-hand side of the page there, the net expense. The revenue is going to show you how each of those programs is kind of self-sufficient, self-supporting, or relying on general revenues. And then as you go down the page, the general revenues there, so the county appropriations, any investment earnings, things like that, how those support the programs. And then bottom line there, that circle number, 835,641 increase to your net position.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
That interest accrued from what investment? Can you explain, please?
I'm not sure what you guys, I guess how, machine class.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, machine class has seen a large increase in the interest rates this past year.
That is,
Just be interest on savings and any PDs or whatever that the county investment funds.
It's a class account that Branch County makes available to us.
Yes. It's a pooled investment fund of different municipalities around the state of Michigan.
do you happen to know what the amount is now? Because it is almost 90,000 interest earned. So I wonder how much you have invested. It's a good thing. I just want public to know.
That I'm not sure. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I can find them for you.
I would have to look up the number that we have currently invested in the class account. There is the board voted on how much we can invest in that. But I don't know that number right off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
You
Which I
can
can
give
send
us
it to you.
later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The next page, page 12 from the audit. This is the governmental fund balance sheet. This is kind of more of a familiar presentation, probably what you're used to seeing at a monthly meetings. Again, it's going to be the snapshot of your financial condition as it closes the business, but more of a current resource and focus, a modified accrual. It's not going to include things like capital assets, long-term debt, things like that. So it's going to be just your current resources. The thing I want to point out here, I guess, would be the two bottom numbers there circled or boxed, I guess. Looking at your assigned fund balance and your unassigned fund balance. Those two things, we like to consider those to be the unrestricted or available for future spending. Assigned would be things that you kind of earmarked for certain purposes, and then the unassigned would be, or what you might think of as like the cumulative leftover, not really earmarked for anything. So look at those two numbers, just over $3.8 million compared to almost $8 million of expenses or expenditures rather. You had about 48% of your annual expenditures in spendable fund balance. So good healthy fund balance there. BFOA likes to recommend about 17 to 20%. Give yourselves about a 2.5 month cash flow. So 48% is very healthy. Not necessarily excessive depending on future spending plans, that kind of thing, capital improvements, but it's very healthy. Next page, page 14, statement of revenues, expenditures, changes in fund balance. Again, kind of a results of operations for the fiscal year. Current resources focus. Really consistent with the year before. Total revenues increased about 5%. Biggest changes I saw there would be the federal and state grants increased about 207,000, and then charges for services increased by 106,000. But overall, very consistent with the year before. Total expenditures increased about 2.6%. No real category really stood out there, so everything is just fairly consistent with the year before. And then bottom line there is you added to your fund balance 371,573 in comparison to 150,000 last year, adding to fund balance. And your amended budget, your final amended budget, was projecting a use of fund balance by about $25,000. So next page, I've got a 5-year presentation of your total revenues, total expenditures, and your total fund balance. Over the past 5 years, in each of the past 5 years, you've added to your fund balance, so your revenues have exceeded your expenditures. Looking at the 5 years, 2019, 2020, 2022, 2023, all look very consistent. A little bit of a spike in 2021, but not much. Next page, we've got a little pie chart showing the composition of your revenues and expenditures. 79% of your annual revenues come from federal and state grants, federal, state, and local, I guess. And then about 6% comes from charge for services. In terms of expenditures, biggest category there, salaries and wages at about 40%, fringes at about 20%. So employees or human resources consist of about 60% of your annual budget. Next page, I've got a schedule of findings, equipment, and costs, kind of an outline, a summary of the audit results. Because you guys do consistently spend more than $750,000, we did do a uniform guidance or a single audit, which tests compliance with grant requirements on a selection of federal grants. So going from the top there, like I said, we've issued a unmodified opinion on the financial statements. There were no material weaknesses, there were no significant deficiencies, and there was no material non-compliance. And in terms of the federal awards audit, again, there was no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, issued a unmodified opinion, and again, no non-compliance to report. The program that we tested was the WIC program. We had to test to get a certain amount of coverage of your total federal awards. Because you guys are a low risk auditee, you've had single audits the last 2 years, you haven't had significant findings. We can test 20% of your awards as the minimum threshold to test. So the WIC program got us over that threshold. And like I said, no findings, no material weaknesses. So audit was very smooth. We appreciate the department's assistance.
Very good. Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any questions for today?
Mr. Porter, thank you. The unmodified, what do you mean by that?
So it's what's known as the clean opinion. There's no modifications to it. There's 4 different opinions that we can issue. We can issue the unmodified opinion, which, like I say, is a unmodified. It used to be called, I think we used to call it unqualified, being no qualifications. There's also, we could issue a modified opinion, which would say something like, except for the effect of capital assets, everything is fairly presented. If you weren't presenting something that we felt should be there. There's an adverse opinion, which would say something like they are not fairly presented. Or we could issue a disclaimer and basically say we couldn't audit the financial statements and we don't issue an opinion. So unmodified opinion is like I say, the highest level of assurance that we can give. Everything is fairly presented in accordance with GAAP.
Very good. Any other questions? I just have a couple questions real quick.
Sure.
So does your firm do audits for other health agencies in the state of Michigan?
Yeah.
Could you ever share with us information kind of how we compare? I appreciate what you're doing with our audit, but it would be nice to be able to compare it to other health agencies our size in Michigan.
Yeah, historically, I have actually, and I
thought you did.
I didn't include it this year, but yeah, we usually I historically worked on Central Michigan Health Department and Van Buren Cast, so they're not exactly comparable in size, I don't think. One's quite a bit smaller probably, and one's quite a bit bigger.
Yeah,
but those are the ones that I'm familiar with.
I thought you did in the past. It's always nice to kind of compare ourselves to others
Okay.
as far as
Yeah.
What we're spending and what we're receiving, and if we could include those in future presentations, I think that's
Yep,
a
I can
good
do that.
benchmark because it's always good to see how we compare to others. But
Yeah, sure.
okay, any other questions? Very good. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
We appreciate it. All right, moving on to 4, health officer's report.
No, accept it and place it on file.
Is that where, okay, do you want to start the audit?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if we did that creature. Okay.
Make a motion to set up the audit as presented and place it on file.
Support it. Thank you. Thank you. Good. We have a motion and support to place the audit on file. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor with an eye? Opposed, the same. Motion carries. We'll place that audit on file. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, back to health officer's report. Mr.
All right.
Burns.
Thank you. So I started off talking about our CDC infrastructure grant that some of those funds are being used this year for building improvements in Hillsdale. The painting project is complete and the carpet project started this week. So some of the carpet at this point has been put down and they will finish that project up over the next few weeks. So far it looks really great. The staffing update, we do have, I believe, one summer technician identified for our vector-borne program. Still looking for 2 more, but otherwise I think is full at the moment. Yeah. Personal health and disease prevention, still looking for a part-time nurse. And we did fill our clinic supervisor position that Heidi vacated with Samantha Keeney. So we're glad to have her on board. In health education and promotion, our community health worker has submitted her resignation so that she can complete her master's degree in social work. The position is posted and we're looking to fill that.
Rebecca, what position was there?
Community health worker. That's the individual that works with individuals that need support and guidance to be more whole or live healthier. And our administrative services department lost our accountant, Renee, who you guys, I believe, have all met at some point in the past, accepted a new position to further her career goals. We're really sad about that. The position was posted and we're looking for a new accountant. I think last month you had mentioned something about, is there a possibility for shared services on that? We did give that some thought and consideration. But that position, she is not busy and she provides redundancy to our financial department here so that when we need backup for different positions or just cross training so that if somebody, needs to be backed up, that position acts in that capacity. So thanks for asking though. So that's where we're at right now. I don't know if there's anything I missed since I put this report together. The audit, of course, we just did. Thank you very much for that presentation, Mr. Porter. Our intergovernmental agreement has been signed by all 3 counties. I'm glad to have that part done. I do have to circle back to St. Joe to get the witness signatures added. We did really great, but we missed these 2. So I have reached out and Commissioner Baker has reached out as well on my behalf. So we'll get that taken care of and then it'll be sent up to the state MDHHS office for the next step.
Did you guys step your game up a little bit?
More witnesses, apparently.
So just an update on kindergarten oral health. We are continuing to review and work on this project. We have been exploring our opportunities and just recently had a meeting this week with my community dental centers about how we might be able to work more closely with their CEO, who is a dentist, Dr. Brown, and capture an additional or larger benefit from billing Medicaid and other insurances. So we're gonna look at exploring that further and probably moving forward with an agreement with MCDC. They don't charge us anything to do that because we already have agreements and partnerships in place with them. This is kind of like an extra benefit that we can realize through those partnerships. I haven't made a final decision on kindergarten oral health yet, though, as well. So the collaboration with MCDC relates mostly to what we do with fluoride varnish application in our WIC program for kiddos that come through NCS. So our community health needs assessment that Beacon Health is doing. I was invited to be a partner in that project, continuing to work on that. What's interesting about that collaboration is that it's also brought Beacon more to the table with the community health needs assessment and the community health improvement plan that we did here for the Tri-County area. And Beacon is interested in investing funds that they have to help with some of the community health improvement plan initiatives or objectives. So one, for example, of our CHIP goals was to make sure that community members in St. Joseph County are more aware that Pivotal serves all. So our community mental health for a long time were a safety network organization, and they just serve the uninsured and Medicaid, right? Well, they have a new model. The community mental health in St. Joseph County, like the other two community mental health in Branch and Hillsdale, are usable by commercial insurance, anybody can use their services. So one of the needs that was identified was explaining to people, building knowledge that anyone can receive services through Pivotal. So one of the things we have asked Beacon to invest in is marketing and information to spread the word that Pivotal can be used by anyone. So just one example. There are other initiatives or objectives or goals that we asked Beacon to consider investing in, and those will be targeted at St. Joe County only because Beacon represents St. Joe. So
We need the money. We appreciate it.
So
Fine.
regarding staff education and training, our municipal employees retirement system did educational sessions for our staff just in the last couple of weeks. And our health education and promotion team is in final preparations for our annual staff training day, which is tomorrow. We will be closed tomorrow so that we can bring all of our team together, and we will be over at the old Kmart building for Medicus conference room for that day of training. We have quality improvement as part of the topics. Dealing with difficult people is another. Taming the email beast as a third. We'll be doing a little bit around diversity, equity, inclusion, short exercise with that. So lots happening tomorrow with our team. Turning it over to the backside, just identifying some of the public health concerns that we're currently working on. Measles is something that we are really taking seriously here and around the state. Looking at our current level of vaccination or rates of vaccination with the MMR vaccine, which has been used for years and years and years to protect people from getting measles and other diseases. And so we know it's a safe vaccine. It has a great track record, but in recent years, people have been somewhat reluctant to get vaccines. So we are trying to provide information to folks about the safety of this vaccine, its importance, and encourage people to reconsider getting this vaccine so that we can try to prevent cases of measles. Measles can be a very serious illness, and I don't think most of us probably have ever had it. My dad had measles when he was a kid, but my dad's in his 80s. So most of us never had to experience this disease due to the MMR vaccine. So anyway, important topic right now in Michigan and around the United States. We did receive $25,000 recently from MDHHS towards measles response, and we are getting ready to submit our plan to the state next week. Highly pathogenic avian influenza. We've been talking about this for a year now, right? Wild birds getting in with poultry, commercial poultry or backyard poultry, and spreading this HPAI that virus. It has now been detected in some dairy cattle in Michigan. We have, I think, 5 farms in Michigan that have been identified as having cattle with HPAI. When a poultry flock gets contaminated or gets infected with HPAI, those poultry don't make it. So they're depopulated or euthanized. Cattle are moved to a sick pen provided with sport therapy and get better. So that's the good news about cattle getting this particular virus. But it's very concerning as far as, you know, this avian strain of influenza, you know, moving into dairy. What else is it infecting? We have had one human case in Texas. It was a worker that cared for animals, and that person is recovering. But the reason we're concerned is we don't want to see a jump from animal to human, and us not to have any natural protection for that. Am I saying that right, you guys? So I just wanted to explain to you that this is very important to all of us working in public health, not just in Michigan, but around the country. I was on a call this week with CDC, and I mean, it's Texas, it's us, it's all over. So we are very concerned and stand ready if we need to respond, if we have an identified commercial flock or dairy farm in our area that ends up with positive cases of this.
New, or there's something about steam milk that killed the avian flu, so maybe like we have a steamed coffee or milk.
There is concern, there's concern about consumption of raw milk that's not pasteurized. So we know about cow shares, right? So there's people that wish to, obtain milk products or dairy products that haven't been pasteurized. So they participate in what's called a cow share. It's completely legal. They can do that. There are also, there's small farms that produce their own milk, and that's what they drink as well. And there is a potential for that milk to be contaminated, I guess, with that virus. So
What are the,
concerns.
what's it do to a human?
Well, we got the case in Texas. Can we say?
It's my little educational piece.
It's educational piece. Is it
Young people.
Like, keep going, I don't have much to say.
Is it okay if we just move on and we'll look?
Yes, let's just do that.
Just a minute.
Okay, so as far as respiratory illnesses, flu, RSV, and COVID, we continue to encourage vaccination for flu and COVID. Flu rates are dropping now, although I was one of the fun people that came back from spring break with influenza this year, so it is still out there. And then our health concerns in teens, Quincy schools, there is some final work being done to look at the information that was gathered, and we are still working to wrap that up with BOH. Dr. Lubrell is working hard with our state partners on that. So as soon as we have more information on that to share, do that. So our mouth day at the Capitol was last week on Wednesday. Dr. Lucarello and Chris Dewey ended up representing the agency because I had influenza and did a great job talking with all of our representatives and senators. I want to recognize their efforts and thank them very much for being there at the state capitol to do that work. Our annual report for 23 is included today. I've kind of put it next in the agenda, and if we could also just accept and place that on file, then we will move forward today with getting a few copies printed and then that distributed to our counties and other locations in the 3 counties.
Is that what you want us to do that now?
You can wait till I'm done, I guess.
Okay.
We can go through it real quick. In our cold water office, we're continuing to work with the county on upgrades here. The elevator company for Hillsdale has notified us that the parts are not here yet, so they can't move forward with that work yet. Nothing to report in Sturgis at the moment. Three Rivers office, we are gonna be receiving one of those little free libraries. So that's that little outside structure that sits outside with books in it. And people can just stop by and exchange books, take books. So that's gonna be installed very soon. And then, Hillsdale Hospital is still working to finalize their process to use the meeting. So the annual report. Cover page. Of course, we have Board of Health members for that fiscal year and the directors at that time. Our organizational chart that is presented. No changes there. We have page 4 of the, well, I should say page 12 of the packet. Shows our locations and provides our mission vision. The letter to the community that I prepare every year is on page 13 of your packet. The financial statements are provided on page 14. Page 15 is, we reserve for our MCDC centers to provide information on our public health dental services. The county health profile, that information comes from MDHHS, county health rankings, as sources. On page 17, we do our WIC information. Children's Special Health Care on page 18. Page 19, communicable disease, which does go back as far as 2019. So if you want to compare disease numbers from one year to the next, you can do that. Immunizations then on page 20, which shows agency administered vaccines. On page 21, our health education and promotion department highlights their programs. We have a page on page 22 for emergency preparedness. Environmental health starts on page 23, highlighting the programs, the general programs they do. Then on the following page, getting down to some of the statistics on some of their busier programs on page 24. Page 25, Area Agency on Aging 3C, talking about not only the AAA, but also the DDS program, victim services program. Statistics for AAA and DDS there on page 27, and then we have our back page. This annual report is largely prepared by our health education and promotion department, so thank you, Chris, and your team. The directors all submit information to them, and then they follow it from there. So,
I move to accept the annual report. Put on file.
Support. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion on the annual report? I would like to echo Rebecca's thoughts on that. Thank you for putting that together, the educational department. It looks good. Always looking forward to it every year. With that, we have a motion and support. All in favor with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries.
I have a question.
yes.
Going back to your class on diversity, equity, inclusion. Where's that coming from?
It's not really a class. It's a little workshop piece. So I'm going to do it. It is a tool called the Power Wheel, and it asks people to do some self-reflection, and then they'll have some group discussion, and then we'll do a final few minutes of any group, as a whole conversation. The purpose of the exercise is to just help us to understand how, based on where we are in our upbringings and currently sitting in our spaces with the positions we hold, the race we are, and all of there's other elements as well. Just gives us an opportunity to think about how Other people, might be affected differently than we are. So it's not to point out that anybody is better or not as good as anybody else. Just an opportunity to recognize that because we're different, it'll puts us in, at a different place in life.
So my next question is it something that you're being told to implement?
No,
You're doing it on your own?
yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of this is because of funding from federal and state agencies required, so I'm gonna say that we're being told to implement it.
Why?
I mean, it is, I mean, it's an important, yeah, it's an important topic and.
It's an agenda.
Well, I understand, but I do think it's important that our staff think about where people come from. And, how, when we interact with them, we want to be thoughtful about that. So we strive to deliver the best services we can, given what the resources we have.
You're already inclusive.
I think so.
So is there really a need for this training?
It's not really training. It's just an opportunity for staff to recognize and then have conversation about it. So I wouldn't say it's training as much as it's an exercise of recognition, to just recognize that people are different and how we interact with people is important in their life, right? So how I work with one of our clients might affect whether they come back and see us again. And I want to make sure that everybody is treated in a way that they feel respected and they feel valued and they feel that we're a safe place to be. So are willing to come back so that we can help to, make our population healthier and prop people up. So.
Any other questions for?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have two questions to
Okay.
the health officer.
Yep.
The number one is the community health worker will be leaving us. How long she has been here? And also have indicated that she's going to pursue a master's degree.
Yeah.
Is that person available? I mean, rather, she know that we have educational support from our agency. She can stay with us, and then she can go to school and get her.
She's looked at lots of options and her final decision has been that it makes the most sense for her to go ahead and separate at this point. Our community health workers fit on our pay scale at a level that would be significantly low for somebody with a master's degree in social work. So she's not going to stay. Once she wraps that up, she's going to be looking for a better position that's better pay that basically she's been, working hard to get. So
How long she?
I think she's been here 2 years. I'm trying to remember when we started the program, but
Today is actually her 2-year work first.
okay, 2 years.
Thank you. Then my next question is relating to our accountant, Miss Gruner.
Yes.
How long she has been here?
5.
5 years, actually.
And she's pursuing another position for advancement. So who is doing the accounting work now, assisting Ms. Fisher?
Well, things have kind of shifted around. So we have worked hard to make sure that no one person holds all the knowledge in finance. So Teresa is going to be doing a lot of the accounting work. And then other members of her team will be working on it as well. I be thrust back into some of the work that I haven't done in about 6 years, 7 years. So, so we're all shifting until we get that new person in place and bring.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, Ms. Gruner worked 5 years. Would have been nice if she stayed and advanced her CPA or whatever,
Yeah.
and assist Ms. Fisher
Yeah.
and to bring it up, or similar person. Are you looking for a CPA?
Probably not. I don't think we can afford to hire a CPA.
I thought we have several $1 million invest.
Well, yes. So our accountant is at a level 8, 7 on the pay scale. So, you know, we can't compete with what a CPA is paid. You know, we are gonna we miss already Renee very much. She was very good at what she did, but, you know, she found a position that better meets her needs and will further her career. So we wish her the best.
Thank you, Ms.
Yeah, we primarily, she found a position that allows her to work 100% from home. So,
We can't compete with that.
Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Becker? Okay,
Thank you.
well, thank you for your report. We appreciate it. Moving on to number 5 with our medical director support, Dr. Luperetto.
Good morning. So my report is, the monthly report is in your packet. It's are pretty much the same. Couple more weeks to my last class for my master's in public health program. Very excited. One last paper to turn in on the 10th. And our latent TB patients are all kind of wrapped up with a little bow and have a letter that they were treated. We are kind of in the midst of looking at one active TB patient who got treated elsewhere but resides in the community. So we'll kind of inherit some of that, watching her take her medications, etc. And then I would give Chris is getting a lot of kudos today because Chris did most of the talking at Mouth Day. And I almost wish people could see how impressive it is when we go, because we bring some data, which they love. I don't know that they get that from the other health departments. It seems like they don't. So they love to look at the data, and you know, some of them give a little pushback on some things that are done in the public health world. And Chris always seems to have a good example or a good case or a good instance of why we do what we do. So it was really great to sit with her and see that. And I think, you know, everybody should be kind of proud that she's a great spokesperson for the department. So I think that's a great thing. And then I also was talking about avian influenza. We were kind of laughing because Rebecca had it and Heidi had it and we had it. So clearly it is in the media somewhere and it's a hot topic. And I had a meeting this morning on my way in for all the medical directors, and it was the whole, you know, 40-minute way here. So again, it's influenza in birds. You see it in aquatic birds, and then it also you see it in our poultry flocks. So the interesting thing is what Rebecca was talking about, that all of a sudden we're seeing this in cattle. So concerning, right, that it's kind of jumping from birds to cattle. It's been around forever. So we've been monitoring the milk thing was an issue. So the FDA actually came out and said, you don't find it in pasteurized milk. But then this morning I saw a little report that said there have been traces in pasteurized milk as well. So interesting, right? And I don't think they don't want people to drink milk, but concerning, but it's probably always been there. So that's interesting as well. And one of the physicians this morning made a very good point that it's kind of been documented in milk. We've seen it right forever in birds, you know, and we've only really had a couple of humans get sick from this. So are we alarming everybody when we shouldn't be, or are we just becoming a little bit more proactive and aware since the COVID thing that, you know, we have to have things in place for this? So a lot of our meetings have been identifying your dairy farms in your communities, identifying your cattle farms in your communities, maybe knowing how many people work there so you're prepared with some anti-flu medications, because those are effective if you catch them right away. So we talk about low pathogenicity and high pathogenicity. You can see the low in some birds, and again, low is just what it means. It doesn't affect those birds so greatly. They might get some ruffled feathers and a drop in egg production, but the high is very concerning. There's a mortality rate of 90 to 100% with multiple organ failure in birds. And ducks also will have no sign of illness, so they might be walking around carrying the virus, but they're not looking ill. And the low and the high can both spread through crops very rapidly. So there's a lot of subtypes, but there are 5 known to cause human infections. So you'll hear the H5 and the H7 very readily, talked about when we talk about human infections. And it's almost like the flu, right? So you'll get a common cold, cough, fever, muscle aches, and then some shortness of breath. You can get pneumonia from this. So we watch for signs like that. But interestingly, the gentleman in Texas who worked with cattle had a conjunctivitis, right? Just an eye infection, like a pink eye. But then somebody talked to him about where he worked, and it was cattle, and we were kind of looking at that. So they did a swab, and he came back positive, and he's recovering really well. So now we're kind of getting that out to the ophthalmology world that you need to watch out for that sign too. So pink eye, right? Who would think to check somebody for pink eye for avian flu? Little scary. So the CDC is doing some genomic sequencing to see maybe how it's hopping from birds to cattle and how this human got it. So a little scary, but again, what kind of heightened awareness should we have when we had one case? There was a case in a poultry worker in Colorado in 2022, and this gentleman in Texas now. So, but concerning in Michigan, I think, is this egg farm that this morning they were chatting, and the medical director was talking about the fact that they have multiple buildings and multiple areas where they house these birds, and they were up to 4 million birds. So think about that, right? They had to euthanize 4 million birds. So there was a delay there, right? They're kind of prepared to euthanize these birds, but they were talking about just bury the birds. What do we do with the birds? And you really should cremate the birds. And so 4 million birds. I mean, so I'm ready for my price of eggs to kind of skyrocket once again. So we've seen it in Michigan in Ionia County.
That's at Herbrook.
Yes.
Herbrook, the majority of Herbrook's eggs go to
Okay.
McDonald's.
Okay. Oh, there's a good one.
They supply, the last I knew, they supplied all the eggs to McDonald's east of the Mississippi.
Okay. Wow.
All right, and that, did it spread from, I mean, the first farm that they had identified up there was their organic farm. So has it spread from that farm to one of the others?
According to the medical director, yes, this morning. I haven't read that, but according to her, they had some spread to at least 4 different large flocks. So kind of scary.
There's several flocks in Michigan. It's not just Ionia.
Yeah. It was there's Ottawa, Isabella, Montcalm County. Yeah. There's
Thing, Bay County on wild ducks being found dead. That was very, I thought I'd seen it like a month or 2 ago. Could have been a TikTok
Lead
thing
poisoning.
and have been nothing.
Lead poisoning.
Yeah. They said they were responsible. They could have just known.
So the recommendations are like poultry workers using PPE. We're kind of back to those COVID issues, right? Because it spreads that way. We test for it very similarly to COVID testing, nasopharyngeal swab and a oral swab. We send that off on some ice. So we've been working to be prepared in our counties just in case with availability for testing and kind of getting a grip on, how many dairy farms, how many individuals. Because if you come forward and you're identified, you can use an antiviral like Tamiflu. If we had our regular traditional flu, if we have you in time, then we can give you some Tamiflu stuff.
I'll drink some almond silk.
And drink some almond silk milk. Yeah.
You can only do that to the full moon and be effective.
Oh,
Mix some honey in it, you're right.
yeah.
So yeah, alarming. But again, the numbers, are very small. While we have to be prepared, I don't know that the big hype for human infectivity is just a little scary. I think people are have some heightened awareness after COVID about how quickly things can spread, and so it gets a lot of press when we see something like this. And I think that's all we have today.
Very good. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Luperlo, do you check with your colleagues across the state in Indiana, counties of LaGrange, Williams in Ohio, and also Steuben County next door to us, relating to this issue, because we do have poultry farms.
Yeah, we do get kind of emergency health warnings. So if something comes up, we all become aware of that. For instance, a suspected measles case in Indiana, we will hear about it because the borders are obviously also close. So yeah, we do hear about things like that. We get instant notification, really.
Because many of us who go to Indiana and Ohio,
Yeah.
At least 2-3 times a week for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You go across the border a lot.
I'm sorry, sir.
You go to Indiana, Ohio a lot lately.
Yes, I had to collect money.
Cheap cigarettes.
Oh,
Very good. Any other questions for Dr. Luperlo today? I just have a real quick question. So with 4 million, birds being essentially euthanized. Thank you for euthanized. So what are there anything that we can do as far as like the separation of those birds inside the facility, or is it just kind of all across the board? Because I know
Unfortunately, with the poultry, really, once you find one, you're supposed to terminate the flock.
Poultry, you have to, MDAR's requirement is to euthanize the entire flock and then destroy that. Destruction can be through composting. The compost will get up. There are 180 degrees temperature, and then that high a degree of temperature in that compost will kill that bacteria. And a lot of
That's higher than pasteurization, really. I mean,
well, pasteurization is what
65 or something,
think,
or
yeah,
160. So
in that same ball, but right. But, just composting will do it. The issue is, and there were some flocks down in Indiana, Ohio that had to do that within the last couple of years, and then they have to disperse that compost in a certain amount of time as well. So, but yeah,
You're talking about a huge compost.
Well, you
Well-
see these facilities in Iowa.
Oh, I've seen them.
Absolutely huge. Well, I have two.
I mean, the one you can see driving right down I-96.
Yeah.
On the south side of the freeway.
Right at the exit ramp.
and the disease is carried through the feces, right?
it can be.
Okay. Very good. We appreciate it. We appreciate the report. Let's move on to item 6 on our agenda, departmental reports. We have area agency on agency. All right, area agency on aging, page 32 in your report. Ms. Laura Sutter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Somewhat detailed report. The only thing that wasn't included is some of the results of our contract review with the Division of Victim Services. We had a great exit interview and sort of an all-day filled event with one-on-one time with the division staff. They do quality and policy and all sorts of financial reviews. So it leveraged nearly all of our team in the area agency division, as well as Teresa. Rebecca was on at a couple different points during the day as well. It was a big lift. We had a lot of material to upload to them through their secure file exchange, a lot of redacting to do because they did a case file review for 6 participants. And I will say, I am just overly pleased with not only the effort and the volume of work that our team had to go through and prepare in advance, but the comments and the feedback that we received was very positive. The team was especially pleased with the passion and the level of personal advocacy that our victim specialists sort of exude and sort of demonstrated in the volume of work that they did. They looked at a specific quarter, the first quarter of this year. We didn't have a ton of, I should say, we didn't have, a huge volume of individuals served, but the volume of work and the leveraged resources and sort of what you would call the proof in the pudding for victim advocacy was very evident. So that makes us as administrators very happy. The compliance issues, there were a few little tweaks that we're going to need to address, may come through in some policies that come before this Board of Health through our finance and/or policy and appeals committee. There's some new protected classes in the civil rights law that we have to make sure that we share with, in different aspects of the program, and some language and verbiage changes that have morphed since the 2021 review. So overall, the satisfaction, we shared all the feedback reports because we asked for victims to share feedback at the end of our intervention with them. Again, those are positive, and they saw the actual completed handwritten notes and data that was shared and compiled. So I would encourage you, if you have questions, if you have people who feel like they've been victimized, and want to talk to somebody, this program is an excellent example of a victim assistance program. Our annual implementation plan is drafted. It will be presented at our upcoming public hearing on May 8th. May is going to be a very busy month, as I'm sure you've read already through the report, read it ahead of time. So it's hard to plan without a solid set of numbers for the current fiscal year. We move forward. There are no major changes proposed in next year's annual implementation plan. And so the updates were fairly easy to complete, and it will be forwarded to the board certainly in time for program policy and appeals and finance. Also on May 8th, did receive just yesterday, and Commissioner Hoffmeister also received a copy as a carbon entity and individual that they will be on site. We've talked about this a couple of times already. Ashley will be down to perform our annual assessment on May 8th as well. It's going to be a party filled day. Lots going on that day. We also were chosen every 3 years. The Bureau goes through a more in-depth financial assessment with a select number of area agency on aging regions. So Teresa and I were on a kickoff call earlier this week for that. Again, with the VOCA stuff under our belt, we should be very poised to be successful with that review as well. May 1st, don't forget, you're all invited if you'd like to go to Lansing, the capital, where we will rally on May 1st. It's a great day of interacting with our legislators, and Jim Cook, our advisory committee chair, has already reached out during the day at the Capitol. Chris and Dr. Lucarello were able to hand deliver invitations to our legislators. We've already heard back from Representative Clark that he won't be able to be there, but he is sending a staff. Senator Lindsay generally last year he attended and talked with us on the lawn. And our platform is here. I included it in my report. near and dear to our hearts is our folks that live in long-term care facilities, and the advocates that serve them are called long-term care ombudsmen. We would like to see that program expanded and more fully staffed. We only have one ombudsman that goes between all 6 of our fully licensed long-term care facilities, and probably over 80 adult foster care homes across the 2 counties. So it's a program that's long been underfunded, so we'd like to see that changed. Certainly family caregivers are near and dear to our heart. They provide a lot of unpaid support to older adults, and we would like to see more resources dedicated to support family caregivers. And then on the backside, my choice is a Medicaid funded long-term care program. We don't have that contract in our region, but we certainly support it. And then increase home and community-based services. That would be a general state funding for home delivered meals, in-home services, and other supportive services to individuals who are 60 or greater. So it's not too late to put in your RSVP for that. Let me know. There is lunch involved.
Tell them, please. I'll be there.
Yeah.
What day? Director?
It's Wednesday, May 1st, next Wednesday.
If I am not mistaken, Mr. Chairman, the Commissioner Houch, Commissioner Hazelbaker, the administrator, and Tom Matthew should be that time around there. You may want to invite them as well. For other reasons, they may be there.
Oh, okay.
So just
Great. Well, you won't miss us. We'll be on the lawn under those large tents like you attended in the past. It's
please.
the event kicks off at 10:30. If I did include the live stream link in case you wanted to watch. They are gonna live
I
stream.
think I'm probably there for lunch. Yeah.
Good. Do it. And then
I take it with me, so I would too.
Lunch and dinner.
There you go.
It really is a great day. If you can go, it would be great.
So they are gonna have tar and feathers.
You betcha. Just lunch.
But it is generally a turkey sandwich, chips and a cookie.
They were gonna have a
Bottle of water.
Yeah, there will be no chicken this year. None to have.
So I made an update too in my report that because we haven't received our full year statement of grant award from the federal government, which we were just updated by leadership at the Bureau earlier, late yesterday, it's still not been received at the state level. So they'll likely have to give us another month of funding, and then we might be able to proceed with provider budget amendments. So my goal is May, but it may have to wait until June. Providers are aware of this. Providers are feeling frustrated as well. But it is what it is. So, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
What does, how's the home meals, in-home for?
In Branch County?
Yes.
Branch County, as I have heard, they're trying to hire more drivers so they can add more routes to bring more people onto the home delivered meals program that are eligible. I know they've more than doubled the number of individuals served, and people seem very pleased with the quality of the food, which is produced in a kitchen in Battle Creek through a company called Milestone. And they're very well received. The Union City site, I believe, which is a newer site that opened, to allow folks there to congregate and come together and dine at their new village-sponsored senior center. They're going well. So,
I have a comment on that. I did a ride around at the senior center in Hillsdale delivering meals on wheels at their site. And I used that for my mom when she got Alzheimer's. I participated in that, but the ability to go on that ride around is quite eye-awakening. And there is a huge need for that service. And the folks at the senior center are just phenomenal about that. I would like to say that.
Sure,
But there's a great need for that. And
absolutely.
if you go on the ride around and actually deliver the meals, see who's getting them and where they're going, have a greater understanding of the need for that program. So it was good.
And I'll thank you all in advance for completing the board demographic profile. All you have to do is find where you identify and put a checkbox and your name at the bottom, and I can compile our board's composition for inclusion in our plan.
Very good. Well, we appreciate the report. Any other questions, Ms. Laura?
Mr. Chairman,
Right up.
I suggest to director to send an email to our commissioners and the administrator for that, if they can attend or not. That way they can look at their schedule. I know Commissioner House will be telling me, Tom, you come with me.
I think we end at 11:30.
All are welcome.
Go ahead.
I make sure that he has the full pants on.
That's not gonna happen.
Let's hope everybody shows up with pants.
It'll be
Good.
short.
All right, moving on to B, health, education, and promotions on page 41.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a few things real quickly to cover in health education and promotion. We have been very busy this week preparing for the all staff meeting. And we're looking forward to that day happening tomorrow. The Lock It Up campaign is in full swing. We are finishing all of the last minute preparation pieces, waiting on a couple little odds and ends to tie up. And then we will be doing a kickoff in May, including a press release and some radio time and that type of thing. We have a list of distribution partners, which I've included in here. So Departments of Human Services in all three counties, the community mental health agencies in all three counties, the sheriff's offices in Hillsdale and St. Joseph County, and the ISD offices in Branch and St. Joseph County have offered to be additional distribution points for us for our secure storage items. Our educational video series has been completed and it is actually available on YouTube now. The three topics that we're covering are marijuana and the developing brain, edibles in children, and how to speak to your children or teens about marijuana. We will be launching a educational, take a quiz to go with those video series to see if folks retain some of that information. And there may be a small prize involved if you take the quiz. More to come there. The agency issued only one press release in March, but we were mentioned 11 times in media stories that included print, radio, television during the month of March. As Rebecca mentioned, our community health worker has tenured for resignation, and we appreciate all her hard work. She was she is our original, and so she will be difficult to replace, but we're looking forward to supporting her as she moves into her professional pursuits. We do have 2 scheduled interviews for next week to replace her position, so we have been receiving some very qualified candidates, which is encouraging. You can see our community event list, what we completed in March and April, and then what we have upcoming so far in May. Although we get emails every day wanting us to participate in other community events. So the car seat program is doing well. Mary distributed 21 new seats to families and checked 22 seats during the month of March. As you can see, our social media data and the data for our community health worker, the areas of greatest need in this past month, Rachel served 21 clients during the month of March, and we had 5 of those clients were new clients. And the greatest areas of need are food assistance, health insurance issues, housing, and employment issues.
You're not participating in the Walker Mile or shoes.
We will have material there and available. Unfortunately, we are not able to provide staff at that event.
You gonna walk?
No, a few of my family members, always. I'm not real good at this normal shit.
I was gonna say, it's always interesting to see grown men in hikes. So walk a mile? Yeah, well, some of them do.
My nephew,
Very good. We appreciate it.
With my boots on.
Thank you, Chris, for that report. Any questions? Thank you very much. Seeing none, move on to C, personal health and disease prevention, page 44. Good morning.
A lot of my report was covered already. I appreciate that. I'll just add a couple things to the avian influenza regarding the milk. They were saying on the state call yesterday that they tested with like a PCR, so sometimes it's showing that there's lingering dead virus particles. After they find that, they test it again. As far as I know, they did not detect any live virus in that. She did say that CDC remains concerned that it could be highly transmissible to humans. There's 800 people that were exposed. 748 of them are being monitored. 15 did show some influenza-like illness, but tested negative. So they are keeping a close eye on that. Let's see, measles, we did, on Monday, we received notice of it, exposure at the Children's Museum in Indianapolis on the Solar Eclipse Day. So we have sent out information to local clinicians just to be vigilant for any people that might show up with signs and symptoms for that. The flu, like she said, we're currently at a low level, continues to decrease, so that's good. Immunizations, we continue to advertise for the measles. We have plenty of inventory. And we sent out a recall to everybody ages 1 to 27 who are in need of a dose. So we're in the process of sending those out with some educational material. The mobile unit is filling up even for next fall already. So we're excited to get that going. She is going today from 3 to 6 to prestige staffing here in town to populate or to vaccinate some of the immigration population. She's offering polio, MMR, and COVID-19 vaccines today. Like she said, we filled the clinic supervisor by Samantha Keeney, and she is doing great, eager to learn, and is a fast learner. For WIC, they completed their management evaluation, and we did receive a lot of positive comments. Only a few items that need to have some corrections done, and she can address those with the WIC staff. WIC also updated the food package to support recommendations from the dietary guidelines for Americans. And this will include keeping increased cash value benefits for veggies and fruits, including canned fish, non-dairy substitution options, and expanding the whole grain options to accommodate individual or cultural preferences. We do now have an open position for a WIC clerk in Three Rivers, but we have received quite a few resumes. Start moving forward on that. Children's Special Healthcare. Starting January 1st, the eligibility age was raised from 21 to 26. And this added 77 new clients to their caseload, bringing it to 866. So they've been busy. Here in Envision staff, they're busy with kindergarten roundup at this time.
it hasn't went up to 61 yet.
No, no.
Bringing in the ears.
Very good. Thank you, Heidi, for that report.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a personal question to, you don't have to answer. Director Hasten. I understand that you have a BSN and also an RN, and you have worked very hard here and continue to. How do you ever consider? We have resources, I understand, to take with the help of Dr. Luperlo, same program Dr. Luperlo is taking. Just as I
My master's program. I really have not thought about that.
You will now.
Put you on the spot.
I have all the votes.
That's you. Very good. Thank you very much for that report. Moving on to D, environmental health, page 50.
Good morning. The Eagle has partnered with the septic replacement loan program to provide low interest loans to Michigan homeowners who have failed or near failing sewage system. So it's a really good program. They have two tiers. So tier one is for those who meet the low income qualifications, and those loans are provided at no higher than a 1% interest rates with terms up to 10 years. And the good thing about it too is there's no collateral or liens involved in it. So it's really a great program. Tier two is for those that don't meet the low income qualifications, but still want to have help getting a loan for their sewage system. And it's the same thing. There's no lien, no collateral. It's their loans can be up to 8%, and again, terms up to 10 years. So this is a really good program. There are certain qualifications that they have to meet as far as installation requirements. Those installation requirements really line up very well with our county's environmental health code. So I see a really good match there. The installers, the septic installers have to be registered with the program in order to do this. And so we've been encouraging our septic installers that are very reputable to get signed up with this. And we have also put information about this program on our website, so people are aware of it if they're interested in trouble in financing or whatever. Gives them all the links to hook up with this program and get some low income loans out of it. So I'm really excited about this. This is something that we've run into a lot of times. We go out, got a failed sewage system, and I just don't have the money. And so to have a program out there to help those people is really, really good. So I'm encouraged about that. Becky talked a little bit about our staffing. We have filled our last sanitarian position for our open position in Three Rivers. Adam Willis is going to be starting with us on May 6th. Adam comes to us with a lot of experience in environmental assessments in the private sector. So I think that will translate well into the sanitarian role. So he currently is living in Indianapolis, but they purchased a home in Three Rivers. So his last day of work in his previous job was this past Monday, so he needed some time to get moved. So we'll be starting him on May 6th. We're looking forward to getting him up and running. We are working on, as Rebecca mentioned, filling vector tech positions. We do have one person that has been hired, been through the process, ready to go. And he will be working in our St. Joseph office. We still have positions in our Hillsdale and Coldwater office. We have a interview scheduled for Monday for a person for the Branch County position. We are still not have identified anybody for the Hillsdale position yet, but we will continue to work on that. We hope to begin our work in that program mid-May. That work goes through the end of August. So we'll be giving you updates as we go along there to how that program is going. One other thing I wanted to report on is PFAS testing. So MVHHS did sample a couple of residential wells adjacent to the Countryside Mobile Home Park, just south of Coldwater. That mobile home park is a type 1 supply. They had a test for PFAS like everybody else. PFAS was identified in their well. So MDHHS decided that maybe they should investigate some of the residential wells in the area. They only got 2 people to sign consent agreements to do testing. I think they were shooting for 4 or 5. With the 2 that they did get consent agreements with, they tested, and good news is those samples all come back negative. So, that's a good, so
That the one down,
sure they will continue to work to try to maybe get some more.
what main here, Sanford Road area, is that the one?
Pardon me?
What road is that? Is it south little?
Yes, yes. They've done. Yeah.
So most of the farms out there, so.
Yeah, it's pretty rural. There wasn't a lot of homes to choose from around there, but I think they had identified 4 or 5 that they wanted to test. As I said, they only got 2 that agreed to have them come in and stay. So anyway, that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Yeah, Paul, it was brought to our, commissioner meeting by Commissioner Wiley about the dairy farm that's being tested for
It's a
PFAS.
beef farm.
Pardon me?
It's a beef farm. You know,
Beef farm.
where,
Excuse me.
where we've had land applied sludge from a treatment facility that, maybe had some PFAS contamination run through it. And there's been a farm over, I think it's in Monroe County, either Monroe or Livingston, where they traced that PFAS into some cattle now. We've not seen that anywhere here in the.
I have not heard anything about that.
Okay.
Not,
Well, that's an
not
update.
heard from this, but I can,
Appreciate it.
yeah,
Okay. I was curious because it was brought up at our meeting.
yeah. So that's certainly a possibility. I mean, PFAS thing is, we're just scratching the surface of it, right? This is gonna go on for a long time, and not gonna go away anytime soon.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any update on the site there north of Jonesville? The site was the
Oh, the PFAS?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I glad you brought that up, because I just got an email this morning. Eagle has been working, trying to get, contracted to have that well replaced. We have that one site that had PFAS and dioxane, I believe, was in that well. So they've been on bottled water, and, they've been working for a couple of years now, trying to get, well replacement. And they finally are at that point where they're gonna be getting, permit, to replace that well. So that's a good thing. And all the other testing that was done out there, there were no other chemicals found, so that's a good thing. So, but that one well that did show up with PFAS and dioxane is going to be replaced. That should be happening fairly soon. They're moving forward on the permitting process. Finally.
Do you happen to know by chance how deep that well is?
The well that was contaminated?
Yes.
I don't. Let me see if I can find out, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll make a note to see if we have record of. I'm not sure that there was a well log on that well, so there may not be information on it, but I'll look into it. Yeah, I'll look into it, and if I have,
Okay.
either way, I'll let you.
I'm just curious about
Yeah.
that.
Where are they gonna move the well? I mean, are they just gonna go deeper? Or, I mean,
It is gonna be deeper, and the person that owns the property, yeah, the big, huge property, we went out and we walked all over that. I mean, it's many, many acres. So, actually, I don't know what location they actually decided on. Like I said, I just got an email from the guy from Eagle. So I'm not sure exactly what location they decided on. But definitely it's gonna be deeper than what the original well was. And, they're working to try to get it out of the, way of, or whatever the groundwater, direction is, groundwater flow from, the landfill where the contamination was coming from. So they're working with all those factors to try to,
right, I can't
Find the
imagine
best
there's too
location.
many water veins under one
Yeah.
property. We're
Right.
gonna get into different water sources.
No, but that, what is that? Yeah. But you got 100 acres up there?
it could be, it's a lot. Yeah, big chunk of land.
Very good. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Andrews, you have mentioned a program, the septic replacement loan program. Sounds like it's a great program. Do you have an idea how we are going to reach to at least our 3 county area to inform our citizens that these programs are available for those of
We
us?
have put it on our website. And, you know, we have also been talking with our contractors. So, you know, if people have a problem, need to have a replacement, they're gonna be calling their contractors. So we've been informing our contractors about the program as well.
I wonder, you can request the public relations department to send a press release so the citizens who do not have the website, I mean, internet services, or so they can read it from other sources.
Sure, we could craft a press release along those lines for sure.
Mr. Chairman, we have a lot of lakes and a lot of people who need help on that regard.
Sure.
Way across
But,
state.
but that's only for low income and qualified individuals, right?
And there's 2 tiers. So there's a low income one at a very low interest rate. But then if you don't meet the low income requirements, there's another tier that's for anybody. And there is a credit check based on that. So, you know, they'd have to have a certain, from what I understand, they'd have to have a certain, credit rating in order to apply or to qualify for that loan. But, you know, if they don't meet the low income, it's open for anyone.
Yeah.
So, how does a contractor, get qualified with Eagle? Is there a website?
They just need to contact them and give them the information. And what Eagle has done too is they requesting information back from the local health department. Hey, is this contractor been through any type of a testing, which we do? So are they registered with our county, which, so if they're registered with our county, that would also mean that, you know, they don't have a history of poor installation, you know, problems with installation, not doing things the way they're supposed to do, not following regulations. They want to make sure that they're not getting people that have been a problem. And so it works that way.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Paul, for your report. Any other questions? I will also say too that I know we've had, I just wanted a special kudos to you and your team in the environmental health. I know you've been working on a ton of different, not necessarily issues, but things that come up, and we appreciate it. I know one of those things came up in the Programs Policy and Appeals Committee meeting, and we appreciate, I know we've removed that from the agenda, but I do appreciate
Thank you.
your guys' professionalism and just working with all of our residents and the different issues that come up. So we appreciate what you guys are doing.
I have one more. As far as pushing it out, I'm sure, you know, the contractors, you're letting all them about, they're gonna push it out because that's gonna drum up work for them. I mean,
Financing side.
absolutely. They're the ones that are gonna be out there hammering this home for the people that can't afford it because that's another job they can get that they normally.
Yep, good. All right, moving on to 7, financial reports.
Good morning. Renee's only been gone for a week, less than a week, and I already missed her comments.
I'm sure you do.
She did produce this report, and you have the bills before you. A couple of things that are a little out of the ordinary. We have an installment for the painting in Hillsdale, the Apex painting, you'll see that. And then you'll also see Willowbrook Interiors. We made the initial payment on that for the carpet in Hillsdale. And then there's a couple of the medical marijuana expenditures for the branch area transitory and bank supplies for the medication bags, the lock boxes or lock bags. That's some a little bit stuff that's a little bit unusual. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have about the bills.
Any questions?
Move to approve the bills as presented for regular March 1 to March 31st, 2024.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have support? Commissioner Matthews supports it. Any further discussion on paying the bills for the month of March? Seeing none, all in favor with an eye?
Aye.
Opposed the same? Motion carries.
So moving on to the financials, you have the balance sheet before you, and you have the expense by programs. And we are currently 9%, 9.9% under budget. We expect we're going to remain under budget for this budget because when we put the budget amendment through, we budgeted for a 10% increase in staff, and we were only approved for a 7% wage increase for staff. So we expect that this is going to continue to be under budget until we make our next budget amendment, and then we may still have run under budget for the year because this budget was put together with that 10%, which was not approved.
But that will be amended in our next.
It will be amended, but it's hard to at the final budget amendment. It's hard to figure out how to spend that money if we can't give it. I mean, 60% of our budget is salaries and wages, and that's a big chunk of money that is going to have to be. We're going to have to figure out what to do with it in that budget amendment because it's not going to go to salaries.
What's the discrepancy between that when you say it's 60% and in the audit it's at 40%?
Well, I was counting fringes, so it's 40% plus the 20% for fringes.
Okay.
So it's 60% of the total budget is salaries and fringe.
So that doesn't include fringe. That's just salary and the audit.
That's salary and fringe is 60% of the budget.
All right.
So we are going to remain probably underspent in this budget until we figure out what we're going to do, which is going to be a bit more challenging for me since Brené's gone. And I do want to talk a little bit about that as well. Commissioner Matthew asked about who's going to be the accounting. I'm going to be shifting down to do Brené's day-to-day stuff. But as the auditor indicated, we have financial controls here to make sure that we eliminate fraud. And, we try to stop fraud before it can happen. So we make sure that there are separation of duties. Whoever writes the check can't be the one that signs the check. Whoever makes the purchase can't be the person that checks in the purchase. A lot of different internal controls to make sure that we eliminate common instances of fraud. So I'll be shifting down to do Brené's duties, and then Rebecca will then be signing off on my work, where I used to sign off on Brené's. We have in accounting, we have worked really, really hard. Our focus. We have team goals and objectives every year, and our goals this year and objectives were redundancy and resiliency. So we've worked really hard on making sure that we have good written procedures, and we're working on policies and training, cross-training for backup staff. So we're in a really good position to weather this, and I have every confidence that we're in great shape and that things are going to be fine. But I want to assure you that. So I would be happy to answer any questions on the financials that you have for me.
Any questions for Teresa? I will accept the motion to accept the financials.
So move.
Motion, do we have support? Commissioner Matthews supports. Any further discussion on the financial reports? Just to reiterate, we still have those controls. They're obviously just going to be executed by a different.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The controls are all just that's why duties have to shift.
Yeah.
Rebecca has to be pulled more into finance because I now have to have somebody to sign off on everything that I do.
Sure.
Where I used to sign off on what Brené did as a double check.
Very good. All right. See no further discussion. Motion has been on the table. We have support. All in favor with an aye. Opposed the same. Motion carries. Moving on to 8, committee reports. Finance Committee. We have the Finance Committee report minutes in your packet. It was a short meeting of 16 minutes. We appreciate. I will accept the motion to approve the minutes.
I'm gonna make the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll support that.
Yes, thank you very much. We have a motion, support. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor with an eye? Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Program Policy and Appeals.
Well, the Program Policy and Appeals Committee met on April 17th. Minutes are included in the packet. You can see. Unfortunately, we did have a lengthy meeting that
We
day.
did not have a 16-minute meeting.
And it's also on our website, which is nice. If anybody has questions about that or wants to see that again.
And there were some things discussed and moved forward for the board that we will be taking up in new business here in a minute. So I would move to approve minutes from the Program Policy and Appeals Committee as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have support?
Support.
Mayor Baker supports. Any further discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor with an eye? Aye. Opposed, the same. Minutes are approved. Okay, moving on to new business, number 9. We have removed A, so let's jump right into B, personal policy manual updates, page 71 in your packet.
I will. This is one of those items that, as I mentioned, was discussed at the Program Policy and Appeals Committee. The internal personnel policy has brought forth some requested changes to this policy. The committee did recommend the approval of it. The only item that had significant discussion associated with it is in regard to the change in compensation pay. When somebody changes a level, we'll keep that on 13. Okay, so it's on page 84 of the agenda packet. Should be page 13 of the. We had this issue in the last year where with changes to the wage schedule that we have, there are times where somebody moving from one level up to the next would maybe only see a penny or 2 penny an hour wage. And this is, in essence, going to say that if they have that change, that pay increase will be at least a 3% increase.
Very good.
So, any
other highlights that you want to point out? I mean, obviously, I know we have a summary.
think there's primarily the thing that was most discussed at our committee meeting. And with that, I would move for approval of the revised personnel policy for the agency.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have support? Look at you.
So everybody step up.
We have support from Commissioner Baker. Any further discussion on the changes to the policy?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we appreciate that Personnel and Policy Committee to increasing our staff's travel and their breakfast, lunch, and dinner from, I believe, $4 something to 15. That's good. The other day I was in I don't want to mention a restaurant. I ordered the child's.
You make chicken.
Yeah, it is almost $8 minus the whatever. I didn't get the toy, and so that's a good thing. Appreciate the chairman of the
program policy.
And the committee members.
I would like to thank Mr. Howard.
When we ordered the items, when you went through the drive-through.
Very good. Where were we again on the agenda? Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor with an eye? Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Our personnel policy manual is updated. Moving on to C, Form 5572, page 132.
So I took Commissioner House's recommendation and made photo of or screenshot of this so I could blow it up. So it's not exactly how the form appears. It's copies of sections of the form, so it's large enough to read.
Which is good.
I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. This form is a requirement. We have to fill it out every year. Our auditors fill this out, give it to me, and then I send it in. So it was filled out by Mr. Porter, and can maybe answer any questions you have on.
More questions?
Just thanks for taking consideration of older people who can see.
Older Michiganians?
Your day's not till May 1st, right? Cut it out.
Any discussion on the form itself or any questions for Teresa that she may or may not be able to answer? Okay, I'll accept the motion. So what is the action essentially? We're accepting this as presented?
Yeah.
Can I have
I'm
a
gonna make
motion?
a motion that we do it.
Commissioner House is on it. He's got a pickleball date.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Support? Good. Commissioner Liner, support. Any further discussion? All in favor with an eye? Opposed the same? Motion carries unanimously. Going on to D. Our MERS money. $302,495 to MERS. Teresa, do you want to discuss this? I mean, I can back you up.
Sure. So we had previously sent all unrestricted Medicaid cost-based reimbursement money that we had received to MERS to shore up the defined benefit underfunded pension plan. In the this year's documents that we received, the guidance documents from the Medicaid cost-based reimbursement folks, they indicated additional clarification that had never been included previously. So we were previously under the impression that all of the Medicaid cost-based reimbursement dollars that we were still sitting on were restricted and could only be used in the programs that they were earned in. However, this new documentation and guidance indicates that if it is a final settlement or an initial payment, those two different types of payments are not restricted because they are considered a repayment or a reimbursement to you for your general fund money. It's only the quarterly payments that we receive, the quarterly interim payments, that are restricted. So Brene went back through all of the payments and has identified that there are $302,495 of that money that is sitting out there that we previously thought was restricted, that is indeed not restricted, and we would like to send that to the MERS surplus fund for the underfunded defined benefit plan.
I think the retirees would appreciate that.
Thank you for that.
Finance looked it over real well, questioned it, vetted it. Seems like a reasonable thing to do with the money and to shore up our retirement.
Can I get a motion?
I'm gonna make a motion to send that one.
Very good. Can I get a support?
$302,495.
We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? I will just ask real quick, Teresa. So I know we have identified these dollars in our financials. So I would assume the state audits us at some point. I don't know if it's regular. I would assume annually, maybe every 3 years. I mean, if we have somebody from the state come in and look at our books, can they clearly identify this is what was either the first or the last payment and separate that just as easily as we have from our quarterly payments?
Yes, the payments come through the state system and they are marked clearly, whether it's an interim payment or final settlement, which is how Brene was able to go back and determine which ones it was.
So it's very distinguishable. It's not like we're gonna have to sit down with them and say, hey, this is when it came in,
It
the
is-
dates and that type of thing. Okay.
It is very distinguishable.
Okay. Good. Awesome. Okay. We have a motion on the floor. We have support. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Opposed the same?
Is there one back in our finance thing that showed the state still owed us $300,000?
No, I think that we're showed up going back.
Yeah, we owe them.
Oh,
We don't talk about that.
We're just hanging on to their money and collecting interest.
I like it.
I don't remember seeing it. I thought.
It's called arbitrage.
It's when it's in red, that's
Finance
negative.
committee,
Arbitrage theory. All right. New business E, strategic plan updates. Okay, one
Teresa really put this together, so she's gonna take this one.
Teresa, you're on.
So I don't want to bore you. I love,
Well,
I'm gonna try not to. I love this new software that we have, the VMSD, that allows us to keep track of this plan and keep it front and center and allows different folks to update where we are on the plan. And it, keeps track with gold bars. Where you see a gold bar icon, that means that is done. If you see a green traffic light, that means that everything is good and on track. You're gonna see a few, things that are a yellow traffic light, which means it's lagging a bit, or a red traffic light, which means it is really behind schedule and is on the forefront, on the forerunner. And somebody is actively working to try to correct that, or we're going to do quality improvement, figure out what the problem is. Once that light turns red, we know we've got a problem, we've got to move on. So I love this system. I think it makes it very easy for me to keep track of this plan. I think it makes a nice report for you guys to read, and I'll let you read it and ask me any questions that you'd like.
Very good. Well, I love that you love that program. I love it.
So we had just a few reds. And do we have action plans? Obviously, it's written in there. But it's 2022, right? Some of them, am I reading it right?
Yeah.
Yes. So the strategic plan covered, it went into effect, and then it continues over the course, I think it's a 4-year plan. And some of these items there are a few things that are red. One of them is 3.1.2.7. Develop goal objectives and reporting process to monitor and stay in the process of health status by September 2023. That one is largely red due to the transition in leadership and health education and promotion. So, we had a transition in staff, so it's a little bit delayed, still working on it. They know that that is a goal, and they're just trying to catch up a bit. And then there's a couple that my team have, and they are related to the new HR person is working on them. And, we just brought her on, so she's getting up to speed and catching some stuff up that was a bit delayed.
wonderful.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Manners.
Thank you. Ms. Strickler, page 137. The mid-page, 1.1.4.2, create opportunities for staff to express level of job satisfaction by September 2022. From your memory, would you be able to assist me with what are some bullet points?
Yeah. So we did create, as part of this, they created a employee satisfaction committee. So that committee meets monthly, and we have an internal, what's called a stream, which is similar to an internal social media where people can post things. And there's a lot of communication and stuff that goes back and forth there. So that committee also decided that they wanted to really work on communication. They felt like that part of the problem was communication. And so that committee put together a work plan, a communications plan, an internal communications plan, which we're rolling out. We're in the process of. It's all been built in the system so it can be monitored. And we meet with supervisory staff in May to roll out that plan. And it will include items that the staff indicated that they wanted. So it will be a minimum of monthly meetings with the teams. There is a monthly all agency meeting, monthly communication from directors onto the streams. And we also still will continue to do the employee satisfaction survey that happens every year in June.
Well, again, thank you for putting this together and staying on top of it. That is very helpful, obviously. Any other questions for Ms. Teresa? Do you need action on that? Probably not, obviously, right? Okay. You look at, so we're here, public comment. We had public comment. Miss Ashley, how are you? Welcome.
Everyone, I'm Ashley Ellsworth with the ACLS Bureau. Just want to add a couple of things. I'm not going to keep you too long, so don't worry. Just to add a couple of things on to Laura's update. As she mentioned, the federal budget, it was signed on March 23rd. It usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks for us, ACLS Bureau, to receive the funding. We still haven't received it. We were hoping this week, but tomorrow's Friday. So that's why we went on and initiated the 1 month of federal and state statement of grants, just because we don't know when those grants are, that the funding will come through. Once that funding does come through, we'll obviously process it and put out the full budget, which I know everyone is very, very eagerly awaiting. So on May 8th, I'll be actually at the public hearing. Also, I'm going to be here all day long. We're doing an assessment. I'm going to go with Laura and team to do an assessment at the Transit Authority. And then we're going to come back here, do our assessment, and then I'll also be part of the public hearing. I'll be listening to the public hearing as well. I highly want to encourage everyone to come on May 1st, if you can, to Older Michigan's Day. It is really neat. I'll be there as well. I looked at the weather. It's going to be 72 degrees. So last year it was cold and windy. So this year, no excuses. Doesn't even look like rain. So it is a really fun day. There's a really great energy that is always in the air. So it's a really, really great event. And the only other thing, on June 21st, I know you've all heard mention the Commission on Services to the Aging on multiple occasions. They're the body, a governor-appointed body that ultimately approves the area plan, any standards, basically anything that we do, we have to put through them. So they kind of oversee us as well. They're actually going to be in Three Rivers for their meeting. It's going to be hosted in Three Rivers. The location is to be determined. I just looked on their website. It usually starts about 9 a.m. There's public comment at the end. I can keep you updated on the location, but that if you're curious about the body that kind of oversees ACLS Bureau as far as our area agency on aging decisions and things, that might be a good meeting to attend, just so you can kind of see. I don't know what business. I can let you know the agenda as well as it gets closer, but I just wanted to share that. And that is really all I have for you.
You said it was May 8th?
No, June 21st.
The commission meeting is the June 21st.
I thought you said something about May 8th.
I did. Yep. May 8th is when I'll be on site. There's the public hearing for the area implementation.
What time was that public hearing?
10:30.
10:30 here?
Same room.
We would love to have strong attendance. We might, and I usually will pull Rebecca. Hey, and
I was here last year. I think I was the only one.
I think you were.
June 21st at 9 a.m. You said, Ash?
9 a.m. is the thing.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I can, like I said, I can share.
Yeah,
when we
let
get
me know.
closer. They usually start planning the locations about a month out. So,
Okay.
But I do know it's in first somewhere.
Awesome. Well, thank you for what you do, and we appreciate the update.
Thank you.
All right, with that,
I got one of
This form, yes, so, and I'll tell you, I don't like, I'm going to decline to answer all of them. Sorry.
you only have to answer one. You're a white dude. Put it down.
They don't need that.
Maybe he's not.
All
As
right.
far as I'm
I'll take a
concerned.
motion for adjournment.
I gotta get that more.
So move.
Support. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next.